good as it gets, really.
Okay, here are our two players. I'm still waiting to find out who Ricky Zhao is playing. We can see him on the right, though. Ricky beat Jerry Thompson in the finals of that last Star City Games event. And when he played there, let's see, it was to stop Jerry from being the first player to win two opens.
Yeah, Jerry is a monster.
Eventually, Jerry did end up getting there.
Yeah.
But he didn't end up being the first. I believe that the first ended up going to Edgar Flores. I could be wrong about that. So in that foot race, Edgar was the champion. Ricky Zhao was playing Cawblade, and the opponent, Jerry, at the time...
I'm assuming was also playing Cawblade?
Was playing Darkblade.
Oh, okay.
So, yes. And the thing that I remember, actually, thinking back to that match, that was really critical for Ricky Zhao's victory, is that Ricky Zhao's list ran Tectonic Edges, and he was able to really capitalize on the stronger mana, and Jerry's stronger cards just kind of got overwhelmed by the fact that he was, at different moments, a little bit behind, a little bit more comes into play tapped, and then suddenly Ricky would have a slight board advantage, and he would double Tech Edge, and the game would kind of just fall apart then, because one stumble like that in that moment.
A robust and diverse time in Standards history.
I actually really liked that moment. I really liked what I was playing a little bit later. I hadn't come to it yet, but I eventually ended up playing Blue Manji, the deck that Larry Swayze really brought to prominence.
The Vengevine.
Yeah. And that deck really, really was good against Cawblade up until the printing of Dismember. And then Dismember kind of put it back to the coin flip territory. And there's a coin flip. Ricky Zhao, I think he lost the coin flip there, and it's going to be humans on humans. Okay. So, the Ricky Zhao list, I'm not sure if he has Midnight Haunting. We're waiting to have the lists brought to us. Ricky's list, 3 Geist of St. Traft, 1 Oblivion Ring as one of his only actual interactive cards game 1 to join 3 Fiend Hunters and 2 Gideon Lawkeepers. And other than that, he's basically going...
A curve of dudes.
Here's my men. Do you like my men? Because they sure are going to come at you.
I appreciate the minimalist nature, yes.
I actually really like having some touch of counter magic in a deck like this in the main deck. But I could just be being a purist about my my archetypes and not realizing I should just be beating down.
Yeah, no, I mean, with the way this curve's set up, I mean, he's going from 1 to 2 to 3, and it's just, I believe, hard to...
Set that moment.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And you also don't reliably have blue mana in 100% of your games.
This is true.
As another issue. So I think game 1, I totally buy just having your best curve and your best goldfish draws, and then you're able to sideboard in, like, he has 3 mana leaks and 2 negates in his sideboard, so if he thinks the matchup's going to go long, or he especially needs permission, he has that option in the sideboard. But
yeah.
Game 1, just present your best curve and hope that's enough.
I think part of my bias might be in the playtesting for Worlds. I know one of the things that I did a lot of was play blue-white control, and if the white weenie deck didn't have mana leaks and or negates, both my list and Andrew Cunio's list would just crush white weenie. Right. But if they did have it, then we would get crushed. Right. And so it's very likely that I'm just maybe a little biased based on that playtesting.
Yeah, I mean, his deck is theoretically not super robust against a control deck with a bunch of data judgments, but that's not a huge part of the metagame currently.
Yeah,
so
it's not like it was maybe 3 months ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah, so I think for the time being, I can totally see keeping the counter magic in the sideboard.
I completely buy that. That's very reasonable.
So it looks like we're about to get underway here.
And Ricky opens up with a Seachrome Coast.
I think that's a fortress.
Oh, yeah, Glacial Fortress.
Some blue-white land.
Definitely a Glacial Fortress.
A champion of the parish from David.
The differences between the two lists, David looks like he has a little bit less ways to interact. 2 Gideon's Lawkeeper, 3 Fiend Hunter, 2 Oblivion Ring. Actually, change that. He has 1 more Oblivion Ring, 1 less Lawkeeper, and then he has 1 less Geist. Otherwise, very similar game 1. In play, looks like we have, is that Honor the Pure facing down against Doom Traveler and Champion of the Parish?
Yeah.
And Geist of St. Traff for Ricky Zhao. David Nitka here.
The Doom Traveler and a 2/2 champ.
Doomed Traveler is actually, in my mind, the secret backbone of this deck.
Yeah.
Geist kills
Geist. We're going to
Geist.
legend rule here.
In for 3. Yeah, Doomed Traveler, in this moment in the game, I think, is the equivalent of 10 years ago a Ravenous Rats.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends how interactive the games are, how interactive the game is being played. Right now, Ricky's just going to be able to overpower.
Absolutely. Hero of Bladehold from Ricky will mean he can overpower the Doom Traveler. Obviously, there are going to be games where a Ravenous Rat from the past or a Doomed Traveler from the now are going to be underwhelming. But a lot of times it just ends up being a 2-for-1 for a low cost of 1 mana. Hero of Bladehold from David Nitka, so they face each other off. Champion of the Parish is now a 3/3. The hero for Ricky is a little bit better because of that Honor the Pure.
But having Doom Traveler in play is a huge edge for David here because it makes this turn's combat a lot less attractive, and he has to worry about the crackback. So unless he has Oblivion Ring, then attacking here is actually, he might be compelled to anyway, but it's not as attractive as it otherwise would be. So he's going to get it in there, get his 2 tokens.
He's coming in here for 10 damage, 4+3/+3, thanks to the Honor of the Pure.
And David comes prepared with the tokens. I assume that Doom Traveler is going to get in there for a chump block.
I wouldn't be surprised if Doomed Traveler joined in a mass block to just get rid of that hero. It's not going to be fun to lose your own hero, but I suppose you could also go Doom Traveler, block token, other characters double block the hero just to stop the bleeding.
I think the position here, it's pretty attractive for David to try to race.
Fair.
So I would be surprised if he's willing to. This block is pretty sweet, right? He's got
a 3/2 and a 3/2. He can let one of them through to take 3, and then leave the champion back.
Right.
That's
This is a pretty attractive block here. So
that's fair. And Dead Doom Traveler means a 1/1 spirit. Moorland Haunt on Ricky's side of the table. I think that's haunt number 2. No, 1 creature in the yard, which can become a 2/2 because of Honor the Pure. Honor, a really huge deal in these near mirrors. And is that a Mirren Crusader?
Yeah, that's Mirren Crusader.
That's a rough one right now as a 3/3 double striker. David Nitka suddenly in a position where he has to kind of rethink the potential attack here.
Well, I don't know. It's certainly not going to help him going long here with Hero Bladehold already starting to do its thing and active Moorland Haunt. So if I'm in Dave's position, I'm trying to close this thing out pretty quickly.
I think your plan is correct. I'm not sure if he's going to do it. He looks like somebody that might be casting a creature and saying go. Just the way that he played that?
Yeah, he seems a little... He looks like he's trying to take a defensive posture here, but I just don't think he can win the game that way.
The Honor of the Pure just pushes him over the top. Ricky pushes Ricky over the top, combined with Moorland Haunt. I think those are probably the 2 most important cards in the matchup, honestly.
Yeah, it's all the same guys running into each other, so...
Back in the day, Honor the Pure would have made both of their creatures bigger. It would have been called Crusade. But these days, Wizards of the Coast does not like making cards that share the benefits as often.
I think that's it's a wise move. Playing cards that help your opponent is a big turnoff for a lot of people. So I think overall it's a positive move.
And, I think that you're a good voice for this. You actually design games for a living.
Yep.
So for those of you out in the world, Patrick Sullivan here, my co-commentator, he's not just saying things that are coming to his head willy-nilly. He does it for a living.
No, they're both true.
They're both true. They're both
true. So
David trying to contemplate. Does he push it forward or does he hang back? I think you're right that he has to push it forward, but I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gonna hang back.
Yeah, I think sitting on his heels here is just so... I don't know how he really proceeds. He can't win any sort of long game against Honor the Pure and Moreland Haunt.
He could be casting just before the attack. I mean, he did not look like somebody that was going to be attacking. Obviously, pumping up his champ is great, but he just did not have the poise of somebody that was going to attack.
Right. I mean, now playing that before combat means that his champion can ship into Mirror and Crusader and not just get eaten up. So it makes sense for him to play the creature before combat, whether or not he's attacking. But this is a pretty big juncture right now.
Right here.
All right, looks like he's going to... Huh?
Maybe. Yes. No. Maybe.
Are we feeling frisky? I don't know.
Do it. He's there. Kill him. I think you have to bring them all in. I think.
Well, he might die on the crackback if he's got.
If there's an answer like a Fiend Hunter.
Well, I don't think he can even play around anything. I think he has to assume. Ricky's hand is just all bricks because he's so far behind. Playing around anything at this point is just sort of whatever. So it looks like he just took the hit there.
Oh, and looks like an Angelic Destiny, which, because there's a Spirit back, that Angelic Destiny will not represent 14 damage in the air.
But it does let him turn one of his mopier threats into something real. And he's trying to just push David into a position where he has to chump block or...
Destiny on the Crusader? There it is.
Right. Basically, if he can get him into a position where he has to lose his Hero of Bladehold, if David has to lose his Hero of Bladehold in combat, that's the only card that's even theoretically giving him enough muscle to punch back. So if he's forced to lose that thing in combat because there's so much coming across, then it's pretty elementary for Ricky to take the game from there.
Yeah, this Mirror Crusader is going to deal 16 if it's not blocked. Since the hero comes in, that double strike just so much.
And there's also an issue with the way Davis tapped his mana there to cast the Mirror Crusader, because in theory he could have represented Vapor Snag, which potentially makes obviously with Angelic Destiny it becomes a big question mark. And even just how does combat work if I Alpha Strike? The potential for there to be a bounce spell can really muck up what Ricky's willing to do. The fact that he's not representing that means that Ricky knows the coast is clear to kind of do whatever he wants. So it's a very subtle thing, but...
chump block on the Mirror Crusader.
Yep.
We have a couple other guys that get blocked by the hero and by the Mirror Crusader of David's, meaning that a grand total of 7 damage comes through from Ricky Zhao, bringing David Nitka to 10, I believe. And it looks like David Nitka drew nothing.
Yeah, and he's facing super lethal next turn.
Is he in a position to kill his opponent? Is there enough mana to activate the Mirror Crusader? I think that's another champion. And I think that's going to be a Abolisher. Is he going to swing for the kill if Ricky has nothing? If Ricky has nothing, I think he's got the win.
Does he have a 7th land up for his...
I cannot tell.
Oh, wow.
Oh, he does not.
That must have been a pretty sloppy Alpha Strike from Ricky last turn.
Yeah, actually, if you look at it, David did not even need to cast either of those creatures in order to win.
Had lethal on the way back.
Yeah, the way back, the Hero of Bladehold by itself represents 7. There was a 4-power champion, meaning that there was 12 damage minimum coming in. And then if you include the Mirror Crusader, that was 18 damage in the swing back that David Nitka had. Yeah,
I mean, once you're in a position where you have Angelic Destiny facing down the 1 flyer, he can be a little more conservative with his attacks there, especially since he has Honor the Pure to make combat muckier on the way back. So he can just saddle up his Crusader, force a chump block, and then still present lethal the following turn. So Alpha Striking there didn't appreciably increase Ricky's clock, nor did it force David to lose his Hero Bladehold.
Right.
So he probably should have swung with a little bit less to prevent dying on the way back.
I think he might have been doing, what do I want to call it? Brian Kowal theory, which is if the board's really complicated, just attack, maybe they'll mess up.
Sure.
And the thing is that it works a heck of a lot of the time.
Right. I think that philosophy is totally reasonable when you are in a losing position. I think had Ricky pumped on the brakes a little bit there, he would have been able to take the game in a turn or two.
I mean, I think a reasonable line there, right, is maybe to put the Angelic Destiny on the Mirran Crusader, swing with it by itself
Right, exactly.
for 14 threatening.
It's just a chump block. It's just
Yeah.
a chump block, yeah.
So, looking at the sideboards, what do you think that Ricky Zhao is going to bring in?
Well, let's see here. He has a Gideon, which seems very attractive.
I think Gideon seems amazing, actually, yeah.
I actually think the equipment is very sweet. He has a Mortarpod and 2 Sword of War pieces. Pro White obviously being
Pro White's
valuable in a white creature matchup, and I like Mortarpod a lot here too, just because so much of the game is just kind of being played on the ground, and giving, +1 health to some of your guys is very valuable when everything has equal stats. You have more of an ability to kind of shuck and jive in combat when you have Mog Fanatic present at all times. It has sort of a backdoor combo with Geist of St. Traff, so I like it a lot here. The big question mark to me is Timely Reinforcements. What do you think of the value of this card in that matchup?
Okay, so Timely Reinforcements, we talked about this last week in the coverage of the Atlanta Open. Timely Reinforcements is one of those cards that it's very difficult to use in the mirror because it brings you back. But if you're winning, then you could actually stop winning.
Right.
And that's a problem. I actually don't like it in the mirror, and we saw several moments in where people brought in Timely Reinforcements and they lost because of it. I think that you have to know that your opponent is faster than you to bring in Timely Reinforcements. Let's pretend that the opponent was a Delver deck. Bringing in Timely is much more reasonable because you can expect the Delver's going to hit in the air once, maybe twice before you get anything going. Then Timely's great. But in the human v human, it's bad if you're winning. It brings you back if you're losing. To me, that makes it kind of it's a push.
I mean, does the equation change for you if you're on the play or on the draw? Certainly,
Yes.
all the parameters you're describing for it to be good are much more likely to occur on the draw. So
Yes.
maybe that's something where it depends if you're going first or second.
I think it does. I think if you're sideboarding and you're on the draw, Timely becomes very reasonable. If you're on the play, I think it's a very bad idea.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because when you're on the draw, you theoretically have a curve where you go turn 2 Honor the Pure, turn 3 Timely, 3 dudes, plus 6 life, which is a pretty big swing. And a lot of the matchup is clear. I mean, if game 1's any indicator, it's your
very
life total
close.
matters and chump blocking matters, because some of the threats are so huge that having just extraneous guys to chump block with, the Doom Traveler was very big for David in the first game. So the 1/1s, even if they can't attack profitably, just having the threat of being able to chump block big attacks from your opponent seems like a valuable thing.
What do you think of the extra Oblivion Ring? I think that's a really good thing against the big threats.
It seems fine. I mean, Hero Blade holds a huge deal of what matters, and it is the best answer. It looks like David, looking over your list, has 2 Dismembers in the sideboard as well, which is also another avenue he could take to fight against.
His Dismembers also make his Timely Reinforcements better.
They do, and they give him an out to Sword of War and Peace equipped on the guy.
Yeah. Sword of War and Peace also in David's sideboard, but only 1 copy.
Narendra, please come up to the judge stage. Narendra, please come up to the stage.
After board, I think that Ricky gains a lot more than David. I'd be willing to say that Ricky probably has maybe a 60% on games 2 and 3. That's a rough guess.
Yeah. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to speculate, especially when there's a bunch of different angles you could take while sideboarding.
Oh, absolutely.
Their configuration may be way different from where my configuration would be.
I'm putting that in a vacuum based on just looking at a 75 card list, not based on what they're putting into their decks.
Sure.
Or even how they're playing them, for that matter. But I think that in that vacuum, I would put Ricky at a slight edge. So that's why I'm saying 60%, which still would mean with David ahead, David is an almost 2-to-1 favorite for the rest of this match.
Yeah.
The ESPN checkmark is not out there, but there's a good 64% in David's corner.
So looks like both players kept their 7, and Ricky's leading off with a champion, matched by a Doom Traveler on David's side.
What do you think of champion after boarding? Second champion.
It seems quite good on the play. I could see an argument for it not being good on the draw.
David takes it, goes to 18.
Again, it's weird because, how are you sideboarding to get all these reactive elements in your deck? The deck's all creatures, right? So you're cutting out some of them, and if you're cutting out your humans to make room for your reactive cards, and some of the human creatures in these deck lists are pretty low impact in the matchup, then it could potentially diminish the value of the champion. But certainly going first, if your hand is, if you're on the play and you still have an infrastructure of humans left in your deck, it seems like it can be pretty good.
David lays a second Doom Traveler and then says go. Back to Ricky. Ricky, 3rd mana. Mirren Crusader, ++. I expect we might see a block here with both Doom Travelers on the littlest of the champions.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty profitable block right now.
And there it is.
Because it is only going to get worse. You will not have an opportunity to make a block as profitable as that.
I think I see a sword. Is that Feast and Famine in David's hand? David
he does have one in the sideboard.
Lays a Geist.
Yeah.
Geist and go?
Did not feel he could afford to take a turn off casting his sword.
If that was a Sword of War and Peace, which I don't think it was, I think it was his Sword of Feast and Famine, then I agree with that. There's a hero.
Yeah.
If it was a Sword of War and Peace, I would have just put it down. In come the troops. In for a grand total of 8 if they're unblocked.
I think he's looking at a chump block here. This would also be a spot where for David that where Dismember would be quite good too.
Now, it's worth noting if we think about timely reinforcements. I don't know that timely reinforcements would be all that good in David's position right now.
If that's the case, it is only because he is losing by such an extent that timely reinforcements. In theory, he's on his back foot. It would be nice, but Ricky's board's so developed at this point.
Yeah,
that
I mean, this is one of those things about timely, though, right? Like, is that even when you're losing, sometimes it's bad, or at least not great.
Right.
There we have a Moorland Haunt with 2 creatures in the yard. That's good fuel for David.
David looks like he's flooded out a little bit. I think I see at least 2 more lands in his hand along with that sword.
Is that a hero? I think it's Sword, Hero, Land.
I believe so, but
oh, maybe it's Sword.
No, I think it's 3. It looks like 3 lands and a sword.
Yikes!
In which case he is just
in real trouble.
Yeah, and a. I guess you need Geist after board when you're on the draw still just to Legend Rule their Geist, but it is pretty rough to be. It looks like it's pretty rough to be on the draw and have that card actually be able to do its thing. There's just so many guys that can sit back on D and eat them up.
I mean, the obvious side out for this matchup is Grand Abolisher for both players.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty close to a freebie.
But after that, it becomes much more difficult.
Yeah.
Ricky Zhao getting a soldier token. And there's the other one. One from David, one from Ricky to give Ricky a 2, 4,
he gets to choose
5, 11.
He gets to choose his chump blocks here, I guess.
Doom Traveler becomes a spirit.
I don't think we're doing a lot more than that, unfortunately, for David here.
How big is that again? That's going to be 5/4, I believe.
It's quite a lot.
And then
the short answer.
3/2 double strike, 3/4, and 2/1 2/1.
Yep.
David's Kingdom for a Day of Judgment.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any coming back from this.
Right, not with his hand being that poor.
If I could give him 3 cards, I mean, change them in, I still don't know that there's any real escape.
Now watching this game, I mean, I'm no, I would not claim to be a master on the in and out of the blue-white beatdown mirror match, but Geist of Saint Trap seems really suspect to me.
Hero. Pack him up, pack him in. unless that's actually Sword of War and Peace, and I don't think it is. And even if it is Sword of War and Peace, you don't gain
it's
enough.
just not even close. I mean, both these decks have creatures that are bigger and can block Geist, or like just knuckleheads that clog up the ground. So it just seems hard. If the other deck's giving you any sort of draw, it seems very hard to get into a position where you have Geist and you're just able to keep hitting with it.
One of the things that's very interesting about Charles Gindy's blue-based Moorland Haunt deck is that one of his plans for sideboarding against both Delver decks and these various white weenie decks is to go very controlling. He actually shifts and puts in tons of cards like Ratchet Bomb. And his basic idea is that with his equipment, he can take over.
Right.
Well, David here, he kind of was in the middle. He wasn't really being able to be a pure beatdown deck, but he had these middle cards. Like the Traveler there was throwing himself as a chump. The Geist of St. Traft came down, and it couldn't even attack because it was just on the back foot. So it was just a chump, and
it does look like Ricky, if I just saw correctly, is making the swap we're talking about. It looks like he went back into his sideboard looking for timely reinforcements.
So on the draw, Ricky goes with timely.
I mean, I'm not positive. He could just be doing the old shuffle and take out the 7 I just pretended to bring in or whatever, but he did go and grab his 4 timely reinforcements, so there's a good chance we're going to be seeing him for the 3rd game.
And David Nitka also looking back at the sideboard. It's possible he's making the reverse switch, or ultimately maybe he's just reconsidering.
Right.
Things went so poorly that game. Maybe he's thinking,
Yeah, but Gindy's, the philosophy of that deck makes a lot of sense to me, because as long as you can drag the game out, assuming your opponent's on this beatdown plan, like as the game progresses, they're just going to be drawing a bunch of 1/1s that don't really do a ton, and just, all your random little creatures. If you can get the game dragged out, then assuming you and your opponent are drawing a reasonably close percentage of lands and spells, just your better card quality should be able to take over.
So, a couple of years ago, when Gindy got when he won Pro Tour Hollywood, he was playing Green-Black Elves, and around that era, I kind of made the claim that Green-Black Elves, it was a little bit later than that, but regardless, that Green-Black Elves was the best red deck in the format. Now, Michael Jacob won U.S. Nationals that year with an actual red deck, but is in this moment right now...
The actual... Was that...
He was playing Scred Red.
Oh, I thought you were talking about his Groundbreaker deck.
No.
Okay.
Is Blue-White Humans the quote-unquote red deck for Standard right now?
Well, I mean, I guess Game 1, that's probably the case. If you look at both these sideboards, they have the ability to sideboard into just better reactive tools. And I think that's a big point of differentiation between, like the mono-red, the other attacking decks in the blue-white deck, and I can say from experience, having just played mono-red at the Invitational, you're just ice cold to most people's sideboards. And since these decks have access to cards like Mana Leak and Negate, they can actually fight some of the hate cards that the other beatdown decks just don't have the tools to fight. But the short answer is yes. I mean, clearly this deck is putting up awesome results, and it is Game 1 at least, nothing really more than just a curve of guys.
We're going to the Game 3. For those of you who are just joining us, this is Star City Games Live, brought to you by StarCityGames.com. I'm Adrian Sullivan here, together with Patrick Sullivan.
Hello.
On the right, we see Ricky Zhao. Ricky Zhao is the defending Star City Games Los Angeles Standard Champion. He won this last year with Cawblade.
And already being put to the test here in round 1 against David Nitka. They're going to a 3rd game here, where David will be on the play.
For those of you who follow Twitter, on Twitter I am Adrian L. Sullivan, but Ricky Zhao is R.Y. Zhao. You can follow him too.
David looks enough to me like Eugene Harvey that it's sort of unsettling. It's like,
oh, look at this.
I know this.
Ricky Zhao shows the hand. It's the all land. Now, back in the day, you could have shown that and get a free roll, get a free 7-lander.
I mean, I think that's back in the day. too far past most people's frame of reference. That's some 94.
That's some 95 stuff, yeah. You have to go way back in time. I believe that strip mine was not restricted yet.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Strip mine, for those of you who don't know, is a colorless land. You can tap it, sacrifice it, destroy any land.
Yeah, this was also, I mean, this is basically when I started playing Magic, and, obviously technology was pretty rudimentary back then, both real technology and Magic technology. So at that point it was, 20 lands was just the default for every deck. So every deck was multicolor decks with 4 strip mines and 4 Mistress Factories and 20 lands total. So every game, just like both players are land screwed. And no one in my circle at least ever made the leap of like, maybe we should play fewer colors and more lands. Just never happened.
Actually, that's one of the reasons why I support Fire Blast in most zoo lists in Legacy.
Right.
Because if you could run it back then, geez, why not?
Yeah, you were just land screwed every game anyway, so it's not even any difference.
Ricky going to 6 here. Yep. These are not the years of 1994 through 6. So he gets to visit Paris, or in this case, Long Beach, and get 6 cards. He keeps this pair of 6. And
the Paris of Southern California.
Long Beach, the Paris of SoCal. Seachrome Coast for David Nitka. Champion of the Parish from Ricky Zhao. Now, actually, that's a card I'm not sure about in the draw. Similarly with Timely Reinforcements on the play.
Right. It seems like those 2 cards are mutually exclusive, right? Like you can have one but not the other.
Nitka says go. Wow, what a hand did he keep? Doomed Traveler from Ricky Zhao. In for 2. There are no sneaky cards in either player's list. No Moorland Haunts, nothing like that. The closest that might happen is they might, though I doubt it, have access to a counterspell, and David Nitka has Dismember.
Yeah.
Timely
on the play. So this is a little odd, but it is pretty awesome right now.
And I think that though it is not optimal, I think from a strategic standpoint, when we look at this board position,
it looks pretty good right now.
Yes. If we were to replay this game 1,000 times, I'm not sure how good it would look.
Yeah, but fortunately we don't have to do that.
Fortunately? Now, Ricky.
Not only is it awesome here, but this will further contort Ricky's game as it progresses, because now he has to worry about future timely reinforcements as well as he's sculpting his lines of play. So,
well, Ricky is on the draw here. Ricky could have his own timelies, and right now, if he cast a timely, he would get 3 guys.
Yep.
I'm not sure if you've ever been in a timely war, but it sounds kind of painful to me.
All right, so he's just going to take the hit here, I guess. The presence of Moorland Haunt makes it pretty unattractive for him to.
Mirren Crusader.
It looks like he just drew
Honor the Pure? Oh, that's a sword. My bad.
Some sort of sword.
Hero. It looks like a Sword of War and Peace to me in David Nitka's hand. He says go. Next turn's going to be a rough one.
Timely Reinforcements and Hero Blade hold some peanut butter and jelly action right there. Those 2. 2 great tastes that taste great together. So it looks like there is a timely in Ricky's hand as well. He has an Oblivion Ring for the hero.
That's a really... What does this card do?
With some fancy...
I believe we're seeing an alternate art there making David pick it up. He does have Oblivion Ring in his deck. And Ricky's like, can you leave it face up? I don't want to get confused as to what's out there.
Yeah.
I definitely prefer that with cards like Oblivion Ring, leaving the card visible so that you know what's happening.
Yeah, I have a very difficult time keeping track of anything, so... It's actually easier for me to leave it face down because then I don't think it's on the board, which has happened to me before. So I expect this to be sword and get it on a guy, I would assume.
There's the sword. You're tapped out, right?
Confirms.
Sword of War and Peace, when it was first printed, I definitely put in nearly every aggressive deck I had.
So why do you think he ran his token in there just to have it get eaten up? Is it playing around in opposing timely reinforcements. I mean, I can't think of really any other motivation for. Because he just ran one of his tokens into the champ. Possible he just did not see it in play.
I think maybe he's setting himself up for casting another timely.
Sure.
Because if he takes a big hit here, right? Then
Then it's three more plus.
He can actually go timely and honor the pure if he is able to get 3 1/1s.
Although it's. It's a little spotty to me, I think, because Ricky is in a position where he has to kind of attack anyway, because obviously he can't block against the pro white creature, so he's just compelled to Alpha Strike anyway. So it looks like you're going to get an opportunity to make those chump blocks, save yourself some of your life total, and not signal a second timely reinforcement. But there is definitely some merit to just having it online for sure. Yeah, he's just compelled to Alpha Strike regardless because he can't block anymore.
He does not cast the Honor the Pure before combat. He might have a creature in hand he wants to cast post-combat.
Yeah, I mean... I would assume...
Chump block.
Sure.
He takes 3/4, goes down to 17.
Yep.
And we're probably going to see a hero or some other
card. He would probably cast a hero before combat, right?
Well, it depends. If he wants to make sure he doesn't give his opponent information, he might think, +1 damage, I don't need it. But I would rather you not have the information.
Right.
Now, meanwhile, he also that is a Moreland Haunt, I believe, so he can hang back with that as to make a Moreland token at a turn. But no, I think we're going to see hero. Hero it is.
Yep.
And I believe champion is a May, and I think he neglected it.
So Ricky has a...
That is a must. He is required.
So he plays a Mirren Crusader, and then after combat moves the sword over. So now he's got a pretty intimidating blocker. Ricky just ripped his 5th land, which gives him access to cast his own sword, I believe he has in his hand, and saddle it up. So I assume this has to be his play. It's just a question of where it's going.
Sword versus sword.
So it's going on the Mirren Crusader, and everyone's coming in. Oh, hold up. Second thoughts. Cold feet.
Now, it could be that, I'm not sure if the judge is stepping in or not, but I believe that there is a missing token on the champion, or maybe maybe it's not the judge, maybe Ricky's just doing some thinking. There should be 3 tokens, I believe. 1 from Doomed Traveler, 1 from Mirren Crusader, and 1 from Hero of Blighthold. I only see 2 tokens there. That is not a May.
Okay, so he is going to make his Alpha Strike here. No, I was still thinking. All right, so we got the counter. We got the missing counter there, it looks like.
Yay.
So the big question mark is he presenting lethal? Because it looks like there's a very good chance David just kills him on the crackback.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the sword on Mirren Crusader, good God.
Is a lot.
That is a lot of damage. That's representing...
I mean, the Mirren Crusader just has to go in front of the champion, right? Because all it is about surviving this turn and winning on the way back, and the champion's the most damage of something that he can block.
Yeah, yeah. The opposing Mirren Crusader, double strike means the sword triggers twice. So the opposing Mirren Crusader is actually dealing 10 plus 2 plus 2, so 14 damage by itself.
Untold millions.
Also, Ricky can gain life from this twice. many cards you got? 2? Okay. So we're taking 10 plus 2 plus 2 is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It looks like 20 damage.
Yep.
Go to 1.
Better not hope he miscounted, though.
That's a lot of damage. Oh, it was 21.
Lethal.
21.
Does he survive that if he puts it in front of the champion?
He does survive it.
Okay.
He
So
said,
it was
there he goes. He points to the champion.
It's
I
exact-
should have blocked
yeah.
the champion. It was exactly 21 damage.
All right, Ricky's out. Still holding it down. Trying to repeat here. We're gonna see real quick if we can possibly get another feature match on camera. I see well-regarded ringer James Gates in the background.
He's on the far left?
He's in the back right corner there, behind Ricky.
Okay, gotcha. Wearing the plaid?
Yes.
And that was Ricky Zhao who just won in this match. For those of you who are just joining us, you are joining us live in round 1 of the Star City Games Open Series in Los Angeles. This is Star City Games Live. I'm Adrian Sullivan, joined here by Patrick Sullivan.
We saw something